All right, welcome back for another deep dive. This time, we're taking a look at something that might seem pretty simple at first, but I think it's actually really fascinating.
I agree.
So we're diving into English greetings and small talk. And to do that, we have your source. It's called English Chat with Emma and Jack.
Okay, yeah.
And we're going to really get into like the subtle cues.
Yeah.
Because, learning the words and phrases is one thing, but there's a whole other layer, I think, that we can kind of unearth here.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's really like, you can learn the steps to a dance, but you don't really know how to dance until you feel the rhythm.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to bring to this deep dive today.
I love that. That's a great analogy.
Okay.
And it all starts with the basics, right?
Yes.
I mean, the greetings, hello, hi, hey.
Right.
But, even those, there are nuances.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
It's not just a one-size-fits-all.
Yeah. Like you wouldn't go to a board meeting and say, hey, what's up?
Right, exactly.
Right.
You've got to read the room.
You've got to know the situation. Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things I love about this source is that they really highlight that. It's not just about learning the words. It's about learning the context.
Yes.
When to use them.
Yes.
And then there's the time-specific greetings, right?
Oh, yes.
Like good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Right.
Which, I'll admit, sometimes I forget.
Yeah.
I'm so used to just hello.
Right. Yeah.
But it does make a difference.
Oh, it makes a huge difference.
Because it shows...
It shows awareness.
Yes.
It shows that you are kind of aware of the subtle, politeness of the situation.
Right, exactly.
And, it's kind of like you're...
Like you're paying attention.
Yeah, you're paying attention.
A little bit more than just the bare minimum.
Exactly.
So,
Okay,
so you've nailed the greeting.
Okay.
What's next?
Now it's the small talk.
Small talk.
Yeah.
That I think so many people dread.
I know.
But is so important.
It is.
And what I love about the way they put it in the source, they call it a bridge to deeper conversation.
I like that.
Yeah, which I think is brilliant.
It is.
Because it's not just about filling the silence.
Exactly. It's not just about the awkward silence.
It's about building that connection.
Right.
Yeah.
It's that moment of connection.
Right, that can lead to something more meaningful.
Yes.
So how do we build that bridge, though? I mean, it seems like every culture has its own kind of unwritten rules for small talk.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, where do we even begin?
Well, I think the source gives some really nice, starting points.
Yeah.
And I like that they focus on some things that are pretty universal.
Okay.
Like the weather. Everyone experiences the weather.
Right.
Or just asking, how are you?
Right, that's a classic.
Just a simple, how are you doing? How's it going? Those are things that are going to be pretty common.
Right, and I think, even if it seems basic or maybe even a little cliche, it's about showing that interest.
Exactly.
That you're actually present and...
Yes, that you're engaged.
Engaged, that you're not just going through the motions.
Right, exactly. And even for me, I'll ask those questions.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I get stuck on how to respond.
Yes, me too.
It's like, oh, I'm fine. And then it's just kind of like a dead end.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's like you don't want to give one-word answers.
Right.
And I like how they really focus on the reciprocation. So it's not just enough to say fine or good.
Right.
You've got to say, I'm doing well, thank you. How about you?
Okay. So you're kind of like throwing the ball back over the net.
Exactly.
It's like a little verbal tennis match.
Yes, it is. I love that.
But in a good way.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so it keeps the conversation going.
And shows that you're actually listening and engaged.
Yes.
And what's great about the source, too, is that they give, actual examples of these exchanges.
You do.
So you can really visualize how it would sound.
Yes.
In real life.
Yeah, they give little snippets of conversation between Emma and Jack.
Right, right. So it's not just this, abstract concept. It's
yeah.
Oh, this is how it could actually play out.
Yes, this is how you could actually use it.
Right, and I think that's so helpful.
Yeah.
For people who are maybe a little nervous or unsure about how to actually apply these things.
Yeah, it gives you a blueprint almost.
Right, right. It's like you're building your conversational toolkit.
Exactly. You've got your greetings.
Yeah.
You've got your questions, your responses. Now we just need to practice.
Right, practice, practice, practice.
Yes, practice putting it all together.
Because I think that's where things can get tricky, right?
Oh, for sure.
It's one thing to know the phrases, but...
It's very different.
Yeah, actually using them.
Yeah, in a real life situation, it's totally different.
And confidently.
And confidently, yes.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes, this deep dive so valuable, is that we're not just learning the words.
Yeah.
We're exploring the nuances. like the why behind it.
Right, the why,
So
exactly.
you can actually feel more comfortable
Yeah.
navigating these interactions.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest whys, I think, that they point out in the source is the importance of actually being present
Oh, yes.
and engaged
Yes.
in the interaction.
Yeah.
Because think about those times when you've, encountered someone who's clearly distracted
Yeah.
or not really interested in what you're saying.
Yeah.
It makes you feel terrible.
It does. It makes you feel like you're talking to a wall.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it can be so easy to do that,
Yes.
to kind of slip into that autopilot mode,
Yeah, especially when you're focusing on the language.
especially when you're focusing on getting the language right.
Right, exactly.
But, the thing to remember is
Yeah.
even small talk is about connecting with another human being.
Right.
It's not about just,
Going through the motion.
going through the motions. Exactly.
Right, so how do we avoid that?
Right.
How do we stay present?
Well, they have some suggestions. They talk about your nonverbal cues, things like a smile,
Okay.
a nod, making eye contact.
Right.
All of those things can communicate so much,
Yeah.
even before you say a word.
I love that it's like you're layering
Yes.
those nonverbal cues onto your conversational foundation.
You are.
Yeah, so you've got the greetings, the questions, the responses,
Yeah.
but then you're adding this whole other layer.
You add that layer of body language.
Right, to make it feel more natural.
To make it feel more
Genuine, yes.
Yeah, you're not a robot.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, you're not a robot.
And I think that's so important because,
Yes, it is.
especially when you're learning a language, it can feel robotic at first.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think, even for me, sometimes just that initial hello,
Yeah.
it feels like the hardest part.
It does. It's like that first step on stage,
It is.
even if it's just a small stage.
Yeah, like you're putting yourself out there.
You're making yourself vulnerable.
Yes, and I think, we all feel that way sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone does.
But the more you practice, right,
The more you practice,
the easier it becomes.
the more natural it feels.
Right, and they have some great tips for making that practice feel less daunting.
Oh, yeah, they do, like finding a language partner.
Right, which can be really helpful.
Yeah, practicing in front of the mirror even.
Yeah.
Or even just, mentally rehearsing different scenarios.
Okay, so like visualizing the conversation.
Exactly. Yeah, just making it feel familiar and comfortable so that when you're in that real life situation, it doesn't feel so overwhelming.
Yeah, it's like you're taking all the pressure off
Yes.
because you've already kind of, done it in your head.
You've already done it a few times.
Right, and I think that's so powerful.
It is.
It's like we've kind of deconstructed this whole process
We have.
of English greetings and small talk, laid out all the pieces.
Yeah.
And now we're helping you put it back together
Put it all back together.
in a way that feels
Yeah.
authentic and natural.
Authentic and natural. Yeah, that's the goal.
Right, because that's what it's all about.
It is.
It's not about being perfect. It's about being yourself.
And feeling comfortable.
Comfortable, yes.
And confident.
And confident.
Yeah, because language is meant to be used. It's not just meant to be studied.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so let's use it.
Okay, so with all that in mind, let's
Right.
shift gears a little bit and talk about how we can actually apply these techniques
Yeah.
in different situations.
Okay.
Because the source gives some great examples of, like if you're at a networking event,
Yes.
which can be very intimidating.
Oh, absolutely.
To just strike up a conversation with strangers.
It can be very intimidating. So I'm ready.
Let's dive in.
Let's do it. Yeah, those networking events are tough.
They can be.
It's like a pressure cooker sometimes.
Yeah.
But you know what I like about small talk?
Yeah.
Is that it's like this low stakes way to break the ice.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to dive into some deep philosophical conversation.
Right.
You can just, say something about the venue or the food.
Right, like something everyone can relate to.
Exactly. Comment on the event itself, something very simple.
Yeah, like finding that common ground.
Yeah, that shared experience.
Mm-hmm.
And, the source really emphasizes that you don't have to be witty or profound,
Right.
in those initial exchanges.
Just be genuine.
Yeah, just be genuine. And sometimes the simplest questions are the most effective. Like, have you been to this event before? What brings you here today? Those are conversation starters.
That can lead to something more.
It's like you're gently nudging the conversation forward.
Exactly.
Yeah, kind of building momentum.
Building momentum, that's a good way to put it.
And then as you get more comfortable, you can start to, incorporate those open-ended questions.
Yes, the open-ended questions.
That allow the other person to
Yes.
share a little bit more about themselves.
To share more, exactly.
So what are some examples of those open-ended questions?
Well, instead of saying, Like, do you work in marketing?
Okay.
You could say, what do you find most interesting about your work?
Ah, okay.
You see that? It's
Yeah.
not a yes or no question.
Right.
It's inviting them to tell you a story
Right, exactly.
about themselves.
And that's where those active listening skills come in.
Right.
Yeah.
Active listening is so crucial.
We've talked about asking the questions.
Right.
But it's equally important to listen to the answers
Yeah.
and respond in a way that shows that you're actually paying attention.
Yes. Because if you're not listening,
And what's the point?
then
Yeah.
it's just empty words.
It's just empty words, exactly.
Yeah, and it's so easy, I think, to fall into that trap of like just waiting for your turn to talk
It is.
and not really absorbing what the other person is saying.
Absolutely.
And I think active listening, it's like the
secret sauce
yeah,
to a good conversation.
it shows that you value
Yeah,
what the other person has to say
it does.
and that you're genuinely interested in connecting with them.
Absolutely.
So, okay, we've covered greetings, small talk, active listening.
All right.
It seems like we're building a pretty solid foundation
We are.
for confident English communication.
Yes.
But there's one element I think we haven't talked about yet that's crucial.
What's that?
Confidence.
Confidence, yeah.
Because I think sometimes,
Mhm.
even when I know the right phrases,
Yeah.
I hesitate to use them because I'm afraid
Oh, I know.
making a mistake or sounding awkward.
Of course, that's natural.
Yeah. And so I think that confidence piece is really important.
It's huge.
And the source actually talks about that.
They do.
And how confidence is often a byproduct of practice.
It is. The more you do it,
Mm-hmm.
the more comfortable you become,
Yeah.
the more confident you feel.
Right, it's like a positive feedback loop.
It is, exactly.
Yeah, the more you do it, the better you get, and the better you get,
The more you want to do it.
the more confident you feel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they give some really good tips for like how to build that confidence. Like practicing with a language partner or even recording yourself.
Well, recording myself, that makes me cringe.
I know it feels weird,
Yeah,
but it can be so helpful.
really.
Yeah, because you hear yourself from a
Right.
different perspective.
Right.
And you can pinpoint those moments where you're like,
Okay.
oh, I stumbled there, or I didn't sound very confident there.
Okay.
And then you can work on those things.
So it's like having your own personal language coach. Yeah. But even with all the practice in the world,
Yeah.
there are going to be situations where you feel out of your depth.
Of course. That happens to everyone.
Yeah, like what about when you're talking to someone who speaks English much faster than you
Right.
or uses slang or idioms you're not familiar with?
Yes. Those situations can be tricky.
Yeah, you can feel really overwhelming.
It can.
And I think in those moments, it's easy to just kind of shut down
Yeah.
and give up.
But don't give up.
But the source actually encourages us to
Yeah.
see those moments
Yeah.
as opportunities
Yes.
to learn to
Whoa. Exactly. Because even native English speakers
Yeah.
have moments where they're like, wait, what?
Right. They misunderstand each other.
They misunderstand each other. They have to ask for clarification.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
So it's okay to admit when you don't understand something.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. In fact, they encourage you to embrace those moments
Okay.
and say, hey, can you slow down?
Or
Can you explain what that means?
right, because that's how we learn.
That's how we learn. And
Yeah.
it's okay to not know everything.
Right. It's all about like being open to those learning moments.
Yes, be open to learning.
Yeah, and seeing them as part of the journey,
Yes.
not as setbacks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because communication is a two-way street.
Right.
You know, it's not about speaking perfectly.
It's about connecting.
It's about connecting and understanding, even if there are some bumps along the way.
Yeah, there are always going to be bumps.
There will be bumps.
Speaking of bumps, there's one specific type of conversational challenge
Okay.
that I think a lot of English learners struggle with.
What's that?
Responding to compliments.
Oh, compliments.
Yeah, because it can feel awkward,
It can, yeah.
especially in cultures where it's not customary
Yeah.
to accept them directly.
Right. It can be a little tricky. Yeah.
So what do you do? I mean, do you just say thank you?
Yeah.
Or is there...
Oh, I mean, thank you is always a good start.
But the source suggests, you know, adding a little something extra.
Okay.
Like, you know, if someone says, oh, your English is so good,
Right.
you could say, thank you, I've been working really hard on it. You know, just something to kind of
Yeah, to acknowledge the compliment.
acknowledge it and show that you appreciate it,
Right.
you know, that they've noticed.
Yeah, and it feels more natural than just a plain thank you.
It does. It feels more genuine.
And it also kind of opens the door for further conversation.
It does.
Right. Like you could even turn it around and be like, oh, have you been learning any new languages?
Exactly.
Keep the
Like,
conversation
right.
going.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
And that, I think, brings us back to one of the key takeaways from this whole deep dive.
Yes.
Which is that even these like most basic English interactions are opportunities
They are.
to connect
Yes.
and to build relationships.
It's not just about the words.
Right. It's not about memorizing phrases.
It's about using the language.
Yeah, to actually engage
To engage, to connect.
with the world around you.
Yes. And that engagement can take so many forms.
Right. It could be
You know?
a chat with the cashier at the store,
Yeah. Or a conversation with a colleague.
or even like a stranger on the street.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those little moments
Those little moments can really
can brighten your day.
make your day. Yeah.
You know, and you never know
Mm-hmm.
what those little moments could lead to.
Right. Like a casual conversation could turn into,
A job offer,
yeah,
a friendship.
a lifelong friendship.
Yeah.
It's crazy how
It is. It's amazing.
something so small can have such a ripple effect.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes this, topic so fascinating
It is.
and so valuable.
Yeah. It's worth investing the time and effort
Mm-hmm.
to really master these skills.
Absolutely. So for anyone out there who's working on their English, remember, you've got this.
You do. You got this.
Embrace those learning moments.
Yes.
Practice whenever you can. And most importantly,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to put yourself out there.
Put yourself out there. Connect.
Connect. Yeah, because you never know
You never know.
what amazing conversations are waiting
Yeah.
just around the corner.
Happy chatting.